Hey everybody, this is Eric Paris. You're listening to the Tap Out Wrestling Podcast Network, the only wrestling podcast that is endorsed by Eric Paris.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wrestling News Weekly. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and I'm joined by my buddy Myron, as always.
Hello, folks. How y'all doing?
Well, man.
We're doing great, Myron. You're our favorite podcaster. I love y'all. I love my fans.
We love everybody. I love you.
You don't like all of you. I'm sorry. Yes. Hey, folks. Before we start our show tonight, I really have to give a shout out to Emily Dole. Mount Fuji from the original Glow has passed away at age 60. She was such an integral part of that show. She was an integral part of putting women's wrestling at the forefront, and it wouldn't be where it is now without her. She was the big good guy. They've based a character on the new Glow series on her, and she was a hell of a performer. So thank you, Emily Dole. Goodbye. And we did appreciate everything you did. Well, and on to the next thing now. What do we got going on tonight, Nick?
Well, man, it's one of those, there were some big things that happened this week, but as a whole, it seemed like a slow week overall, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah, I have to agree with you. On the whole, it was not the interesting week of wrestling that I would have expected, but how can you do anything and go up there and try to compete with a national championship football game? That's what everybody was hyped for.
Yeah, and we're not going to discuss it. We're going to skip right past that.
It's that son of a bitch. Yes.
Well, let's go with what in the wrestling world was the biggest buzz of, I guess, the whole last week. And that, of course, was Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Yes, I cannot wait to see that. I haven't had a chance to yet.
I actually have it DVR'd, so you can come over and watch it.
I'll come over to the house and watch it one day.
But let's start with something a little bit, I don't want to call it controversial, because I didn't think it was controversial, but to be honest with you. Chris Jericho addressed an issue that came up where a fan had kind of made a fan art for him, and it had his face with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit behind him.
Two people who've passed.
Two people that were very good friends. And I mean, if you've ever listened to, Chris Jericho's podcast in the past, his thoughts on, Chris Benoit. It kind of is what it is.
They're from Canada.
Yeah. And I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to speak for it. Because I don't want to mistakenly put any words in his mouth, nor would I try.
Yeah.
But essentially, he dedicated his match to those guys against Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom, and there was a big backlash.
You remember when they were all on WCW, and then they all worked their way over to WWE. It was a big deal. It was a really big deal to get these talents, and now you've got the problem and the stigma attached to Chris Benoit, and everything about him online you see is negative. He did a horrible thing. He did a very horrible thing, and there's absolutely no justification or no making up for that. But there were people who knew Chris as Chris, and no one ever said that they saw any of this coming. So these people just knew Chris Benoit. They did not know the guy that killed his family. And I think that's the people they're judging on. That's who Chris is going with.
Well, here's the thing. He was so inside on this, the whole situation. And like you said, that was his friend. That was his, somebody that was kind of like, I don't want to say it was his brother, but but in the sense of they were friends and they had a really close bond. And like you said, so for me to judge how he feels, we've all got friends who've done bad things. Yes. Nothing like that. I'm not even saying that.
No.
To me, this is a really fucked up situation to try to walk around because I'm not.
Yeah, I really don't want to offend the friends and family of the dead people.
Well, Chris, let's kind of we'll make it.
We did not know that Chris either.
Right.
We knew him as a wrestler.
Well, let's go ahead and put it. I mean, the gist of it was Jericho's response to all of the backlash was, no one misses Nancy Benoit and Daniel Benoit, the wife and the child that were killed more than Chris Jericho. I mean, he was personally involved. But he's like, I had my reasons for dedicating it, and for the people that don't have anything to say or do, he's like, basically to fuck off. And I'm not even
situations that the internet has given us all a platform to speak on that we just don't need the platform to speak on. Okay?
Right.
There was not a need for response to this.
And so my thing was he basically had his words, told him to fuck off, and then, I'm like, what, kudos to him. I mean, whatever, and then let's get to the meat of the action. The match finally delivers. We finally get Omega and Jericho. I know you said you haven't seen it. I've seen it now at this point, obviously. The match was really good. I will go ahead and tell you it wasn't the greatest match of all time.
Well, I wouldn't expect it to be that.
Well, everybody will try to tell you that, and I'm like, look, it's a great match. I'm not saying it wasn't. Omega gets, spoiler alert, by the way, Kenny Omega gets the win.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what was really cool about, too, is the post-press conferences were just off the charts good. The emotion that they do.
I love that. I really like this press conference deal.
Oh, yeah.
That they're doing in Japan. And I'm assuming that's what they've always done, but I like it.
Well, they treat it like it's like a legitimate sport. After the match is over, you've got a Kenny Omega up on the stage. He's sweating. He's breathing heavy. I mean, he's just completely exhausted, and he's saying Chris Jericho is everything Chris Jericho claims to be. He's a star. He's a main eventer. He's a legend. He is, he is that great. It just, Omega is just better. I mean,
do you think this is because the whole? I'm just so caught up in this press conference thing. Does it remind you of the podium?
Kinda.
They had where you go to see Tony Schiavone after a match or before your match.
Kinda, yeah.
Where you got more time to have a well done promo.
Well,
that makes sense to me.
Well, now, mind you what I'm telling you now, Omega's sitting behind the desk, right? Well, when Jericho comes in, he basically stands in front of the room with his hands on his hips. He's pissed he lost. He tells them he's in a bad mood. They keep asking questions. He's basically insulting the reporters, and just going off or whatever. And he's like, that's a, dumb question. I've already answered it. Somebody else, and it just kind of keeps going, whatever. And basically he's how dare the fans of Japan boo him, cheer for Kenny Omega. He's Chris Jericho. He's insulted by it. He's leaving and he's never coming back, and he storms out of the locker room or out of the press conference, which not only is the promo great, but it's set up the next night because at New Year's Dash, Chris Jericho attacks Naito. So apparently Chris Jericho's sticking around. He's going to be in New Japan for a little while.
Gee, it's coherent booking. It's a plan. It's things working out, and it seems to be well scripted and well planned out. It sounds good. It sounds like a well-written program.
Well, here's the magic to it. March 25th, Long Beach, California, New Japan and Pro Wrestling USA, Strong Style Evolved. That's the rumor of Chris Jericho wrestling in the United States, not for the WWE, but for New Japan.
I didn't think it was a big deal with him wrestling in Japan or wrestling on that cruise of his. But if he is actually wrestling on this continent for another program, that's insane. I don't see, I really, really don't see how this is coherent. I mean, how would this would work between Vince and New Japan unless it's going to be one of those situations? Because, in the old days, they switched talent back and forth. There were deals, and these guys worked together. New Japan and WWE worked together with talent on a lot of stuff. That's a really interesting idea that this might be something that continues. And New Japan has said that after the success of this, that they are interested in getting more WWE guys
and working
or
with
big name
them.
American talent.
They would actually be interested in working with them, which that's a whole other thing we'll have to address down the road. By the way, if any New Japan pro wrestling fans, if you are there, which we know you're there because you've listened, keep your ears, keep subscribing. Big thing coming. You might be shocked about New Japan Pro Wrestling presence on the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. So keep that. So subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, etc. Keep an eye out so you don't miss, something coming soon. I'll leave it at that.
Do I have my tickets?
You got tickets, yeah.
I've got tickets to Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well,
awesome.
Now, the return trips from Japan, let's talk about that. There's lots of rumors about guys, let's start with the big wig himself. This rumor's been going around for a while, so we're not breaking ground here. But the rumors are that War Machine, the tag team, and then Ricochet are pretty much, soon to be appearing, in the WWE. Now, we assume it's NXT, right?
I would think so. Of course, NXT is just stock full of giant tag teams, those big ass guy tag teams right now. So you maybe, I don't know if they're ready. We'll see. Ricochet would be good on NXT. I think he might be a problem coming out onto the main roster right now because you know how it is on the main roster. Because if you're not presented perfectly, you get lost in the shuffle. So I think it'll be a good thing they put him on there, put him on NXT first.
And that's funny, because Ricochet coming from Lucha Underground, Dragon Gate, New Japan, PWG, etc. Everybody knows he's the indie sensation. We all get it. He's basically like the ring is his personal springboard. He's all over the ring.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah. And we joking, comic book athleticism. That's kind of what he described that. But what we were talking about before we started recording, I actually said, Ricochet actually worries me a little bit about being underutilized, whatever that word means. May not live up to full potential, whatever. Maybe that's what we're saying in the WWE. Yeah. Not saying his fault, their fault, whatever. I'm saying it just could happen. Whereas again said to you earlier, War Machine, and I know they same thing coming out of Ring of Honor, New Japan, World Culture Pro, etc. But to me, they fit, Vince's blueprint of a heel tag team. They're big, bruising, and I think to me, it's a good fit as an opponent for the Authors of Pain.
I think it would work. Are they face enough?
Well, no.
Would it work?
Let's be blunt. NXT doesn't seem to care. They put heel versus heel or babyface versus. It's so.
Well, NXT, like we said before, NXT viewers are typically
they're smarky.
They're smarker, or whatever you want to call it. They're better. They're wrestling fans who are more informed. The people on the main program, you got to realize, it's people sitting down. The father has come home from work. The kids are finished their homework just in time to watch because they can't watch the whole thing because they got to go to bed. So you get people who just want to see. You get excited kids. You got the tired guy who used to watch wrestling when he was younger. So you get you get a mixed thing. You don't get people who are hardcore fans. You get families and kids and stuff, and you get a casual wrestling business. So you put this guy who may have been the hottest thing on the indies on the main program, and nobody knows who the hell they are. I'm sorry, but you can be the best person on the earth on the indies, and nobody know who you are when they put you on Raw. So you need a little bit more, and I'm tired of seeing people who are big deals just get pooped on when they come onto one of the rosters and they don't know what to do with them and they get stuck and they wound up just drifting off. Look at Bayley. They didn't know what to do with Bayley. She came up from the biggest thing in NXT and they had no idea what to do with her or her gimmick, so they just let her go. And she's nothing now.
And total off subject, there were rumors floating around that essentially they've given up on her.
Yeah. And why would they? Why? She's incredibly talented.
But if the now I'm not saying again it's not her fault, but if the audience isn't connecting, it might be time. I've always been a huge fan of packing their bags and sending them back to NXT for a refresh. And I don't think that would hurt her in the least, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, it wouldn't hurt her. No.
So anyway, on to, speaking of, hot things, man, we talked about this last week. I want to talk about Impact Wrestling a little bit. By the way, as we always say every single week, if Impact Wrestling is your thing and you want it, check out the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, the Impact Wrestling edition with our boy Lewis. I mean, he's going to go down in depth, match by match, all the deep, stuff. We like to give you kind of like the high points, and the high point this week was real simple. 309,000 people, up from 285,000 people watching. Best number since August 17th, 2017.
Phenomenal news.
Great news.
Phenomenal news for them.
But now let's call it now. We said last week, we saw the card for this show, and it was, Alberto versus Eli Drake, LAX, OVE for the tag belts. Storm, essentially, we knew he was heading out, lost a career match and whatever, but all these things, we thought this show had the potential. Oh, by the way, there was a new X Division champion crowned. I mean, the grand champion, they basically threw everything but the kitchen sink at this show. And it panned out really well for him. And I thought it was a really good episode. And again, back to we don't typically watch the show. What were your thoughts on it? I mean, I know they got some big things planning up you were going to bring up too.
Well, that's the thing. They're getting better. They're working on it. Don Callis came out and said that he is looking forward to the next round of tapings. He is looking forward to making changes, but the changes are going to be gradual. They're going to, and this is a quote, they're going to build a foundation and they're going to set the table. They're going to be prepared. They're working, and they're going to. Looks like they're going to be consistently booking things. I love this idea. I love that they're going to take their time and work on making a really good quality program. So this is good for business to hear stuff like that.
Well, speaking of something else great for Impact, this is all rumor, by the way. This one was not a confirmed thing. But everything's been out there that they are trying to sign Rey Mysterio Jr. before the TV tapings you were talking about in Orlando. I mean, think about that. If you could get Rey Mysterio to show up on your new TV, coming out. I mean, I know they've been working on this thing since back in last summer. I mean, so this isn't like it's a new thing, but this is kind of a big push. That'd be a hell of a foundation to lay down if you could pull in Rey Mysterio. I mean, that's just
that'd be phenomenal news to get Rey. I mean, that's instant credibility right there. Rey is magical. He's a great entertainer. What does he have left, though? Where is he?
Yeah, he's clearly banged up. But my thing is he's still a name. He knows how to work a style that he can survive. So I think it'd be a great, and think about it, it's leadership. They got a lot of young talent there. So it'd be a great leader in the locker room, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, he might be good for mentoring people and helping them. Because do they have a guy with his resume on there?
I mean, you've got guys. I mean, Conan's in the locker room. I mean, which is what it is. I mean,
he's been around forever.
I mean, even guys that people don't give enough credit to, like Johnny Impact, John Morrison, that kind of thing. Alberto, say what you will. I mean, he's got tons of experience. It is, but anyway, that's, my whole thing is again, going back to laying the foundation down, bringing in a few good stars, maybe get some mentoring, slowly build. We talked last week. They're talking about doing pay-per-views, live pay-per-views again.
Yeah.
By the way, Myron, Fight TV app, right? If you're going to watch Impact.
Man, that's the place to watch it. And you know what got me? I continue to see people saying, well, I couldn't go to a wrestling show this weekend, so I watched some on the Fight TV app. Or I couldn't do that, or I didn't know what to watch, so I watched some wrestling. And it's catching on. I see people that we are friends with posting that they're watching wrestling on the Fight app. They're listening. Because, it doesn't take, we're not the best thing to sell the Fight app to people. We'll tell you about it. Once you go and look at it, that's when you get sold. You get on there and you read the little card of matches they've got. Not little, it's a giant card. But You look through it, there's tons and tons and tons of wrestling product on there. And people are understanding it, and it is the place to watch wrestling. If you want to watch something besides the WWE, that's the place to go, man. They've got everything.
It's a free app. You go to our website. We are constantly putting it up. I always tell you, pretty much you can bank money on it. Monday and Wednesdays, the link is going to be on our Twitter feed.
Yeah.
Because two of our favorite shows to watch on there, Ring of Honor, the weekly show is on there.
Yeah.
And of course, Wednesday, it's Rocky Mountain Pro that you can catch on there. But then, of course, there's Reality of Wrestling, there's Rockstar Pro, there's a bunch of others. Yep. But then I try to tell people, even if you're not just a wrestling fan, there's boxing, MMA, all these other kind of stuff on there.
Yeah, all your combat sports.
Yeah.
All your combat sports.
So simply just download the app. That's all we tell you to do. The app is free. Just sign up. Boom. And then from that day forward, tons of free wrestling, tons of free, everything. And then, of course, you can watch the Ring of Honor. You can watch the Impact pay-per-views and lots of other stuff that comes through there as well. So, but anyway, we digress. We're just real happy that they seem to be heading in a good direction over at Impact. Great news for us. Great news for Lewis. Great news for all the wrestlers that are down there.
Great news for everybody concerned in wrestling, because if there are more jobs, there are more wrestlers employed. If there are more programs, there are more people watching. And there's also the programs will start to get competitive for viewers. And that's when the wrestling gets better, people. If you want to sit at home and bitch about what you see on Monday and Tuesday nights, but you're not going out on the weekends to see wrestling, you're part of the problem.
Well,
if you're not going out there and getting involved and making wrestling successful, they'll never improve. Get out there, do it. It's out there. Wrestling's out there, and they want your money. Just get out there and support indie wrestling, and the more wrestling you support, the better all wrestling becomes. If nothing else, you help develop talent by going to see talent and giving them feedback on their performance through cheering or booing. You wind up with getting better talent on the big leagues. So get out there, support wrestling.
Well,
that's the best thing you can do to make it better.
Yeah. Well, back to the big leagues, because now I was going to bring this up to you. I wanted to ask you a few questions. Alternates, different places to watch stuff. Facebook Live, WWE's bringing the Mixed Match Challenge. Real quick, I'm going to give you some of the teams that we've gotten at this point. So it's going to be quick. It's Bayley and Elias, Alicia Fox Goldust, Asuka The Miz, Nia Jax Apollo Crews, Sasha Banks Finn Balor, Alexa Bliss Braun Strowman, Natty and Nakamura, Naomi and Jimmy Uso, Lana Rusev, Charlotte and Bobby Roode, and of course, on SmackDown tonight, Becky and Sammy basically announced that they're another team as well. This is pretty steep with a lot of people in there. I know you're go ahead and ask me because I see it on your face.
I don't understand it when you don't follow the storyline and your heels and faces are together, because I think you're exposing the business. You really have to stick with a storyline if you're going to do a program, because then everybody's like, well, if these people are actually not enemies, then it's fake. What's your take on that?
I get it. They're basically saying outright that these, it's an outside project. It's not attached. The storylines aren't going to be there. I mean, we think about it this way. We talk about how many people watch on, the WWE Network and how many people watch on Raw, and versus how many people we think we're going to watch this on Facebook. I don't know that it matters. I wished it at least all the baby faces were together and all the heels were together. That would make sense. I mean, truth be told, Bayley and Elias, Becky and Sammy, it's really the only two when you think, well, Asuka and The Miz. So you got three of those teams that really just don't make sense. I mean, and there's really, when you think about what I just said, you can't really fix those teams.
Well, there have been people hurt that have changed. So you're right. How about you got Apollo and
Nia Jax
in there?
But Nia Jax, Jesus, they don't know whether she's a babyface or a heel half the time. I mean, she attacked Asuka, which we'll get to later, but I mean, so you assume maybe she's a heel. So you could switch.
But then you'd have to say Asuka's a face to make that work, and it's just so damn confusing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You could always maybe put like Nia with The Miz and Asuka with Apollo. but you still have Bayley with Elias, and I mean, if you wanted to flip flop Bayley and Alicia Fox, so you'd have Elias and a Fox with Bayley and Goldust. Okay, maybe that makes sense. You're still screwed with Becky and Sami Zayn. You could put Natty with Sami Zayn and Becky with Nakamura. Maybe that'd actually be a badass tag team, by the way. Now that I think about it, but anyway. I really just don't have any issues with it because I don't really think it matters. I don't think it's going towards any storylines or anything. So there's got to be a logic as to why they picked the teams, and I guess we'll see. But there just doesn't seem to be. Now, in all fairness, like you said, there were injuries, which I'll let you give me your last opinions, and I want to move on as what we're talking about with one of the injuries that caused some of the change up in here, which makes a little more sense. Do you have any other takes on the Mixed Match Challenge? Or
I'm waiting to see. I'm trying not to shit on it before I see it.
Okay? Yeah, let's not. Let's see it.
I want to see it. I'm gonna back off of criticizing the plot and saying that they're shitting on the business or exposing things. I'm gonna wait and see it before I say anything. There is no need for me to shit on something I don't know anything about. I don't understand it. Okay, so let's go back and let's see this. I'm going to go back and cleanse my mind and see this from scratch to see what I think. Because it's a fascinating concept, man. They're going to be putting wrestling out on the internet itself, not on television. It's going to be live action wrestling online.
On Facebook.
On your Facebook page.
And like you said, everything's evolving. It just kind of is. And one of the reasons is because we have injuries, right? Yeah. Injuries always mess stuff up. The big one this week, Samoa Joe on Monday night.
Yeah.
He's fighting, he has a match with Rhino, and apparently there's a right foot injury, so they did pull him from the Mixed Match Challenge. Yes. It's a plantar fascia rupture, whatever the hell it's called.
They're hoping it doesn't mean he misses the Rumble.
Hopefully not.
I really want him in the Rumble.
Yeah.
Because he's Joe. God, I love Joe.
I mean, yeah, but hey, they're going to do the MRI this week. They'll confirm, what it is, and then they'll, the timeline will probably be more set in stone at that point. But if he's going to be out, we were reading today or yesterday, whatever it was, and hey, he's got something coming up that could keep him busy. Yeah,
he's going to be the voice of a Transformer.
You finally are going to get to say somebody's going to be a fucking Transformer. That's why.
Yes. I don't mean to down your Bryan, but. Seriously, man, you're going to have him being the voice of a Transformer, so it is so much more coherent than having John Cena being on a show with Transformers. Now, Samoa Joe is going to be the voice of a Transformer. Which one's he going to be? You told me.
Predaking.
Predaking, yes. Yeah. Predaking was not in my toy collection as a child, but I'm assuming he's a badass Transformer if they get Samoa Joe to put his name.
I mean, Joe's looking forward to it. I mean, it's I amen to that. I mean, right?
Yeah. Yes. Definitely.
Well, speaking of, hey, we're on Raw. Before we hit into the main, stuff on Raw, we're all hyped about this. We have been since we originally heard about this. January 22nd, Raw 25th anniversary show.
Yes.
Going to emanate from the Barclays Center and the Manhattan Center where it all started.
Yes.
Names.
Fascinating.
I'm super, look, we all love when they do like old school Raw and they bring back all the old guys, the legends. Cena and Lesnar, of course, they're part-timers, but they're, one of the things they're hyping that are coming. But then they started dropping names like Taker, Lawler, JR, Hall and Nash, Ric Flair, the Bellas, APA, Dudleys, HBK, Triple H, the Outlaws, Stone Cold Steve Austin himself's going to be there, so it's a freaking huge deal. And then, of course, today they Boogeyman and a bunch of other, but they subtly slid it in there on us, Brother Love.
Brother Love, yes.
I mean,
it's one of those things. I'm so happy to see him back on the WWE show. I don't want him to leave his podcast though.
Oh, he won't go anywhere. This is a one-shot deal. But they always say, never say never. That's what he hashtagged today when they announced it. Oh, by the way, just kind of a side note I wanted to throw in there. Being the Raw 25th anniversary, It was like last week, if my brain works right in the calendar. Not the past one, but the one, yeah. Something to Wrestle with. Bruce Pritchard.
Yes.
Actually they did an episode about the origination of Raw. That would be a great companion piece for this if you haven't listened to it. It's actually,
I gotta get that.
Yeah,
yes,
get it.
definitely.
It's actually not one of their marathon episodes either. So you can actually get it in pretty good. So I really suggest it because there's some really cool stuff that came up on that episode. So definitely listen to it. But I did want to ask you a cool take, and then I'm going to voice my opinion about the guy. Mick Foley was asked about the 25th anniversary Raw, some of his favorite moments. He said, being fired by Stephanie was a big moment for him, of course, blah, 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 whatever. And all winning the title, obviously. Yeah, yeah. But you always can never tell with Mick about this person. But they said, who would you like to see back on Raw on the 25th anniversary? Al Snow.
Yeah.
I was like,
they were the stuff, man. Those two guys were not your super great performers, and they weren't your great muscle. Now Al is a great muscle man. Now, God, seeing him at WrestleCade, he looks like a Greek god.
He's jacked better now than he ever was. I mean, anyway.
Yeah. But I okay. I think it'd be great, man. It'd be great. Al Snow is a great guy. I would really yeah. Let's see this. Let's see it. Al, if Foley wants him back, bring him back, man. Because Foley knows. I mean, you can trust, seriously. You can just about trust anything Foley says as far as wrestling. So.
I will tell you this. My feelings on Al Snow are like, obviously, I met him at the Milestone event out at Rocky Mountain Pro. I was floored at his hospitality. I mean, he was a super great guy. I could be wrong, but then we met him at WrestleCade, same thing, super polite, great guy. Matter of fact, he was just on Austin's podcast, and it was actually a 2-parter. It was 2 weeks. And it was a great show, and it was funny because, I read a friend of the show, Tyler Stinson out at Rocky Mountain Pro tweeted, it was like a free seminar. I mean, he didn't tweet, it was on Facebook. It's like free seminar or something like that. And I was like, you know what? Cause it's true. I mean, a lot of what he said in his seminar, he put on there cause he tells people all the time. It's not a secret what I tell people. He's like, this is just a flat out, it's the same seminar I've been doing for years. They just don't freaking listen. If they wanted to get better at wrestling, they would just pay attention, kind of thing. And I'm like, okay.
That's epic.
So young wrestlers, guys just getting in the business, you want to learn, go find the 2-part Al Snow episode on Steve Austin's podcast.
Yes.
Download them and give them a listen.
Well, I mean, I've been right around him. I think I've shook his hand, but I haven't got to hear him the way you have. But I have watched some of his shoot interviews, and the man is as cleanly spoken and plain and informative about wrestling as anybody has. It's like watching, just watching the shoot interviews. It's like doing a class. He's genuine.
Well, but it's
really good.
A lot of what he says on the shoot interviews, he does in a seminar. And if you want to talk about, how interesting are his seminars? My 20-something-year-old at the time, she was 22, Jesus Christ, wrong kid. 20-year-old, was with me, and she sat in on the seminar while we were there, and she still will to this day talk about how interesting it was.
And she's not even a big wrestling fan.
Doesn't care. I mean, she loves some Total Divas and Total Bellas. Wrestling, not really the biggest thing. She did ask me when the Royal Rumble was because she wanted to watch it because they're going to have 30 women in it. That was her.
I'm so happy about that.
So there's that. That was her big take on. But like I said, she loved it. So definitely, again, are we putting over Al Snow more than Mick Foley? You're trying to?
Well, Mick Foley's. I mean, I think people know more about Mick Foley than do Al Snow. And
well, no, I'm trying to say, are we doing what Mick Foley that putting Al Snow over? Because yeah,
I think everybody should.
I would. It's worth it to me. But hey, let's move on. Let's get to the core stuff here. We just, what? We'll get back to Raw in a minute. We'll talk. I want to talk about and give some, we a lot of times push the indie stuff sometimes back to the back. Let's talk about it right now. I know there's a couple shows and promotions that we wanted to plug and talk about for a little bit. We want to get out and see. Fire away, man. Our first one, I think we got coming up, what is Southern Fried Championship Wrestling?
I love Southern Fried Championship Wrestling. They just drew a huge house at their last show. Charles is not afraid. Charles is the promoter, owner. He is not afraid to open his pocket up and bring in massive talent. The guys you see on his show are typically guys that you see on the higher end indie shows and guys that you're going to see on WWE shows. He's that. He's done that. The storylines are good. I love the booker. I'm really, every time I go, I have fun, and people are so nice. You know, people are so nice, and you get a lot of interaction with wrestlers at Charles's show. So everyone got to meet some wrestlers and just hang around. This is a show. Southern Fried Championship Wrestling cannot be beat. It'll be in Monroe Saturday night, and Charles is the promoter that rings the bell when it says bell time.
And then, like I said, the stars they roll through there are always really good.
Yeah.
And hell, if you go on any time, you might actually the Tapped Out Wrestling podcast there, some form or fashion, right?
Yep.
Because we try.
You got NCW every night up at the Landmark Arena, every Friday night at the Landmark Arena. That's always a great show. Probably going to catch the next show I can because I'll be working this Friday. And then you've got One Fall Power Factory has a show coming up on the 21st at Landmark Arena. So that's the big shows I know of right now, right in our metro area.
Let's plug One Fall a little bit. Let's give them a little plug because, I mean, they do a phenomenal job, by the way. They've got, QT Marshall, Ray Lloyd, Glacier, who they just were talking about the other. They were talking about him the other day on What Happened When that I was listening to at the time. But one of the reasons why we're a big fan is one of the guys that comes through there who's doing a lot of training there is Andrew Duckworth, who we've had on before. And go back in the archives and listen to that episode because I love Andrew
Duckworth. Great guy.
Oh, and by the way, plug him. He was just on the Future of Honor, web. You could see it on the internet.
Okay, is that a web show? Because I wanted to find out where that was because I'm dying to see it.
Yeah, it's web. If you can follow him on there, you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so check him out. The Pale Horse, is that what he's now? The Josie Quinn, is that his new name?
Josie Quinn, the Pale Horse.
Josie Quinn. Yes, that's
his new gimmick.
See, I actually do pay attention most of the time when I'm on Twitter and stuff. I try. But they're going to run a show up at the Landmark Arena as well. The famous Landmark Arena, the house that AJ Styles built, NWA Wildside, Frankie Paris, Terry Law, that whole group back in the day. And then of course, we want to give a shout out to our friends out in Mississippi, Pro Wrestling Ego. Jesus, man, they're running shows all over the place. Did you see who was
going to be on that card? You got to see the picture of that card. It's the card for the 20th of January, and man, that card is going to be huge. I looked it up. Go to their Twitter and Facebook page. You'll see Trevor Eon. You'll see Ray Fury. I think O'Shea's on that thing. So it's like, it's where it is, man. It's if you want to go if you're in Mississippi, and I will tell you, it's worth driving. And if you go to the pro wrestling show, it's in a place called the Hideaway. There's a restaurant right as you go in the door. Go in the restaurant. Go hungry.
Yeah,
the chicken fingers are insane. The chicken fingers are huge, and everything's great. And yeah, you got to go to this place, man. It's awesome. So look for it.
All right, well, let's digress. Let's get back now because we wanted to plug at least, the One Fall, the Southern Fried, all of that good stuff. Pro Wrestling Ego. And by the way, I want to plug a show real quick. It actually dropped, and it's just going to get complicated in my brain. It dropped Tuesday night at 6:05, which will be, if you're listening to this, yesterday. Our interview with indie legend Terry the Rocker Lawler. Doing phenomenal is all I can say, and that's an understatement.
Yeah, I looked at the stats on that. I was like, if you did what?
Yeah, if you want to hear stories about guys like Dusty Rhodes, the Disco Inferno, Frankie Paris, David Young, and Murder One, Chip Day, check this episode out. We tried to Terry Lawler spent about a day at my house. It was literally like an entire day, and we got it down to where like 2 hours. With the show, and I was like, I had to air the whole 2 hours. Great show. Check it out. It's in the archives, obviously, since it was yesterday, right? But let's dive headfirst into Raw. Let's go through, cause again, there was not a ton, I guess, to dig through. But the internet sensation, I guess everybody that would have gone nuts over would have been Balor Club.
Balor Club versus the Champions Club or Club of Champions or whatever. You've got this parts of the Shield and Kurt Angle's kid are calling themselves now. Yeah, I don't know.
God only knows why they're to get. I mean, but how about that?
I like seeing the Balor Club coming back. I don't understand.
Well, let's be honest.
Where it's going.
Dean Ambrose threw a whole, and not like on his fault, but the injury to Dean Ambrose I'm sure threw a wrench in this whole situation. But the Balor Club together, one of the best things they could have done because those three guys were floundering.
Thank God. They're saving those guys.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It's good. Yeah.
And then basically, let me ask you this. This is an odd question because at the beginning of the show, they have the, Jason Jordan claiming they're the best 3-man group, blah, blah, blah. That's when the Balor Club comes out. They exchange words. Of course, by the way, they're going to have a match later, and they do. And spoiler alert, Balor Club wins. Irrelevant. Because my question to everybody is the 3-man group thing coming back? I mean, is Vince, because we've always heard that Vince loves factions.
Definitely looks like it, man. It definitely looks like it. It's not a bad thing because you get more storylines.
Well, it's when you hear Bruce talk about it, Vince likes faction because usually somebody of that faction spins out and you get a star out of it.
Yeah.
The sum of the pieces are better, that kind of thing. I mean, because we're talking Miz Taraj now, we're talking Balor Club, Shield, when they're assembled, whatever this group is, this other group is just basically waiting for Dean Ambrose to come back so Jason Jordan can explode or something like that.
I don't know. We got something weird. What are we going to do? What are they going to do with that guy?
I have no idea, but he's drawing so much heat that he's going to be a great heel. People laugh at me when I say that. I'm like, dude, he's getting heat. People hate him. So people hate him. So in my opinion, he's going to be a great heel. But anyway, that's just me. But I was questioning, let us know what you think about the factions, the returning of whatever.
Yeah.
DM us at TappedOutPod. You can email us, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. You can message us on Facebook at Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. And then but anyway, let us know what you think because I think they are. I think Vince has just always been a fan of factions and it's a great
good for business, man. Good for business. And also, it's a way to get more people on TV without having to give them matches. You can give one person in a group like that a match, but still get the other people out there on the television. So it works better to get people out there.
I agree with you 100%. Literally it was the week of attacks. Braun Strowman attacks Kane and, Brock Lesnar to continue the story.
Do they typically have grappling hooks backstage?
Apparently they do. I mean, I guess you would have to when you're throwing things over, to pull. That would make sense if you're rolling the strings.
Now, did they tape that or did they let that go live?
I would have no idea.
Because that was a hell of a throw. First time?
You're right. They probably taped that one.
Because, seriously, he just like, here, I'll dig around. I'm looking for, it's a grappling hook. Grapples that whole thing and pulls it down on top of him. That's a lot, man.
He's a strong man. Skill. He's a strong man and he's a badass. What do you want to say?
Oh, I get that. But, who knew he was that talented a grappling hook thrower? I can't throw a grappling hook like that. Not that I'm a professional grappling hook thrower, but,
So you wouldn't make it on the Deadliest Catch is what you're saying, right?
No, there's not a lot of grappling hooks and net throwing in my business.
Well, again, attacking Nia Jax attacks Asuka. Apparently, they're gonna have a match next week. My question to you was: do you job Nia out this quick?
Do you job Nia out, or do you end Asuka's streak? Because whatever's going to happen, it's going to mess up the. Unless you're trying to set up a major rivalry for the Rumble, okay? Unless you're trying to set up a major thing where the two of them have a lot of heat coming in, I don't see any sense in this. But give it a dusty finish or a shitty finish or just something. Don't ruin it. Don't let this just... I'm going to say it. Don't go ahead and let the two of them have something happen. Don't let anything bad. Don't let the two, one win or lose. Let them come out there and have a schmoz finish, so that when they go into the Rumble, it's a big deal.
Is that the match next week where you end up with all the women in the ring?
It's got to be a schmoz
and
finish.
That's where you lead into the Rumble because you're going to have all the women in the ring, fighting and da-da-da.
Well, you realize on this week you had, on the first show, you had the new negative heel women's faction lose to the main roster people. And then on SmackDown, you had the new negative heel female faction lose to the regular roster people.
Right.
So it's moving around. They're doing something to set this up. It's going to be a huge, whatever happens is going to be huge at the Royal Rumble. And they're setting it up, man. It's great to see that they're doing value added where they're making you want to watch it on top of making you want to watch it already. They're giving you some storylines to go over the fact that it's a damn women's Royal Rumble. That's great.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Obviously you mentioned, which we'll get to in a minute, Becky's return, but of course on Raw, The Miz returns.
Yep.
We get we're big fans of The Miz, obviously. But he returns from the Marine filming. Obviously Becky came back last week in a dark match, but her official return was this week. So we're glad for that. For anything. Is Miz going to be in the Rumble? Because we got to start asking yourself: what belts is he chasing? Is he going after Roman, or is he going to?
He's going after Roman because he came out after the final match on Raw, and they did that. What is that finishing move he uses on Roman? So Miz is going back for the Intercontinental title.
Maybe he can be. I don't know if he's going to take it from him, but maybe he can. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But we'll jump over. We said Becky's back. We're back over. SmackDown, man, was. By the way, I did want to throw out a cool factor. The viewership this week. Now, granted, they were up against the national championship. We're fully aware. 2.766 million people. Last week, SmackDown was 2.72, so they weren't that far behind.
No.
We'll see this week how that turns out for them. Just curiosity. Yeah. There really wasn't a lot on this show, and this is really not good for them, in my opinion. And that's just I could be totally wrong, and I hate to be negative. Gable and Benjamin, they're great in the ring, God bless them, but that promo was horrible.
Yeah,
went way too long, and it was horrible. Daniel Bryan come out, still didn't save it.
Daniel Bryan actually, if you've got a bad promo, bringing Daniel Bryan out is like hooking a rock to it and throwing it off something. It's going to go worse. He is shit on the mic when it comes to this whole gimmick he's got right now. He's not interesting, and I think he's just not.
Wherever they're heading, they need to get there because you're right.
They need to do something because if they're going to make him this crazy, out of control heel figure, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Are they going to have him talk some more? Not feeling. I don't know what it is they're doing with this guy, but every time I see him, he is going up to what I would call Kevin Owens status. It's like I would rather go out in the yard and look at a dog turd than watch this shit. Because it's dead. Daniel Bryan is just a dead weight right now. And to me, now this is to me, I just don't care for it.
Well,
so
we'll get there. We'll see. We're heading into Rumble season. Something big's got to happen, right?
Yeah, it'll happen, and I'll understand it. But right now, God Almighty, I'm just stuck. Ugh.
And it's because let's go ahead and twist into the main event of SmackDown. Was AJ Nakamura and Orton got put in a handicap match against Owens and Zayn because Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are going back and forth. They're having a pissing contest, they just aren't getting along. They don't see eye to eye. Why would he do this to AJ? Why is he going to have him in a handicap match at Rumble, which I don't get either.
You're killing me right now.
Oh, yeah. Literally, I went through it that fast because that was your main event angle, and it just didn't do anything for me. And God bless them all. Love them all.
They've done it before.
I love them all as performers.
But they've done this multiple times recently. This exact same match, basically.
In some form or fashion, it's been Nakamura, Orton versus Sami and him. You just added an extra piece to the puzzle is pretty much what you've done. So, if you're telling me, though, here's the funny part. One of the most interesting things that happened on SmackDown to me, I will give them this. The Bludgeon Brothers are being built as monsters again.
That's good for business. Racking these guys up there and setting them up as monsters to be somebody that you're going to have to fear. You have to have tag teams like that. You need factions like that. You have to have guys that are feared to draw intensity into the wrestling. It's great. Yeah. This is awesome that they're doing this.
Solid wins over Brazongos, now over the Ascension, brutal wins, fast wins. So hopefully they keep booking them this way. I've always been a fan of them. And, of course, Mojo defeats Zach in the U.S. Championship.
Mojo getting evil Mojo. I love that. Okay? I love that. And then coming out and sticking his finger at Bobby Roode like that was great. So I'm proud of it. I'm really happy about that.
I'm going to ask you again. This is going to sound like a broken record because I've done this before, right? What on God's green earth are they doing with Bobby Roode?
They hit Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode is kind of in that weird spot. He's one of those guys where are we gonna? He was in a rivalry with Ziggler, and then they got rid of Ziggler, but then he's still in the whole picture. So what are we going to do? I don't get it. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing with him, but I do like the fact that he is in this challenge and he's going to get a higher profile match versus Mojo. So I think it's going to be good for both of them, especially Mojo.
Bobby, I just worry that he's falling. I mean, I love the angle down in NXT. I'm just worried this is looking like a Bayley situation to where I loved it down in NXT. I love Bobby Roode as a worker.
Yeah.
Just the fans,
the
fans
Charlotte
aren't popping.
In the Mixed Match Challenge. So that's probably a good sign.
I mean, well, that may be where the company sees him, but if the crowd doesn't react, guess what? Bayley was main eventing, pay-per-views, and she fell just as much as, so to say it couldn't happen to Bobby Roode, I tell you, you're nuts.
No, it could. I mean, it's just, I don't want it to happen. I really don't want this. I don't want Bobby getting lost. But I like this rivalry thing because, we've got Mahal and Xavier Woods and for the other side of the coin. And it's coming up on Roode and Mojo. So it's guys that I'm not saying they're parked, like their careers are parked, but different faces. Super hot guys on one side, former champion, and then part of the hottest tag team ever. And on the other side, you got Mojo and Roode, two guys who we both think need pushes. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. I mean, I hope, to be honest with you, if you want to shake it up and you just get the, like they're trying to look like they're obviously trying to do with the Bludgeon Brothers, mixing it up. Gable and Benjamin are getting a push. I mean, you want to just rattle the boat a little bit. Put Mojo and Xavier in the finals. Now, I don't think that's who it's going to be. I think it's going to be Mahal and Roode.
I'd love to see Mojo and Xavier in the finals, just out of guilty pleasure.
Yeah. But so I'm thinking it's Roode versus Mahal, and eventually probably Roode picking up the win. Although you want to talk about heat. Jinder Mahal with the U.S. Championship.
Yeah, that's heat, man.
That's a little bit of heat. It's a little bit of heat there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, that's it. That's all we got on WWE this week. I mean, that was that quick. I mean, nothing,
nah, it's not really a lot going on.
But that's just the way it works some weeks. It is what it is. You got anything else, man?
Let's see. I did want to throw in that Amazing Maria was the one that came in to be the person that Asuka was going to face in the match. And she's a wrestler I want to get on sometime. She's a very solid female wrestler and just somebody who's big on the indie circuit. A great wrestler. I did notice that. Wildcat Wrestling is actually coming to town from New Orleans, is going to be up here. On February 17th.
Yeah. We saw those guys at WrestleCade, yeah.
Yes. So and as far as a promotion, those guys, well organized, all the wrestlers dressed alike, all the wrestlers had on the same outfit, coherent. I could not have been more impressed with the guys. Well behaved. So there's a lot of great things happening in wrestling right now, people. But you can't just sit back and bitch about it. You got to go out there and find it. Find what you like in wrestling. It's out there. So
if it's reality wrestling in Texas, Rocky Mountain Pro in Colorado, championship wrestling from Hollywood, you've got the Monster Factories up the East Coast. You've got, like I said, now you got MLW now running shop once a month down in Orlando.
Yes, that's great.
We're gonna make that trip. That's a no-brainer.
That is
We've got to make that trip.
News.
I mean, and then of course local. I mean, God bless us. We live here in Atlanta, which is a hotbed of wrestling and indie. So we can pretty much have choices of places to go, to see wrestling. So, but anyway. But hey, before we get out of here. Just wanted to kind of let everybody know we had A1 Wrestling out of Canada. Kobe Durst, we had him on Sunday. Obviously Tuesday, again, Terry the Rocker Lawler interview, 2 hours with the Rocker talking about 28 years of wrestling. Thursday, who we got coming up?
Thursday, we got Lindsay Jane Snow, and I cannot wait for y'all to hear this. She is super interesting. So look out for that. She was a fascinating interview, and I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did talking to her.
Yep. And then, of course, as always, Monday we had the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, Impact Edition, of course, every Wednesday, 7:05. Here we are. We're back with you every week, Wrestling News Weekly. Thursday, we get the Wrestling Dorks who focus just on the WWE stuff primarily because we go all over the place. And then, of course, like I said, we got the interviews. Check them out in the archives. And, man, just God numbers of interviews. I had somebody today that I was having a conversation with, showed them the podcast on their phone. They had an iPhone, so we pulled it up on podcast, showed them, and they're like, "Oh, you guys have 300 episodes." I'm like, well, no, actually, we have like 380 episodes, or it's like 370 something episodes. But the iTunes podcast app only goes back 300 episodes, so. He was like, well, where do I get the rest of them? I'm like, okay, well, you can go on iTunes, Google Play, etc., find all those. But if you need more, go to the website at tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com.
That's the actual vault, the best place to find our stuff. And I know a lot of people are listening to us that way. Yeah.
Well, there's that. There's, tappedoutpod.com. They got the media player right down the middle. YouTube is picked up. I don't understand. I was like, hey, I don't know why you'd listen to a podcast on YouTube, but okay. It's there, whatever. And it's just Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, of course. So you've got all these options, and we want you to kind of things you want to hear, people you want to hear, places you want us to go. Tapped Out.
Oh, yes. Thank y'all so much for all the feedback. I know Nick is about to tell you where to go to send the feedback, but I really have been and so happy with the amount of people that have been sending us shows they would like us to go see. And a lot of them secretly I'm already wanting to go see. So thanks. Keep it up, guys. If you're a wrestler, if you're a promoter, a booker, you'd like to get a little heat on your show, or just let people know it's out there, let me know, man. I'd love to come see the product. Thank you.
All right.
Where do they do that at, Nick?
It's at Tapped Out Pod on Twitter. Tapped Out Pod is on Facebook as well. Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. You can email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. On and on and on. Tapped Out Pod essentially is you can find us pretty much anywhere on Snapchat, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, I'm trying to do much better on Instagram. I know everybody give me a lot of grief about the Instagram. I'm like, look, I'm trying to put a couple pictures a week at least.
Folks, we're old men. We're still learning the internet.
Jesus, no, I'm really good. Trust me, I always tell people between Facebook and Twitter, and I have my own personal Facebooks and Twitters and, all that kind of stuff so I gave you all of those. So, but where can they find you?
Just put me in charge of the MySpace page, man.
I
could show them some stuff on the Tapped Out MySpace page.
Well,
you can find me though at Meyer and the Mark TOP. You can find me at T.O. Meyer and Fancher on Facebook. Those are my big social medias that are accessible to everyone, and I would encourage you people to send me all the feedback you want. I love hearing it. I love talking to people. I'm working on some articles for some other websites. And if you've got anything you'd like to hear or like to give me some hints on or give me some tips, man, just fire them off. Myron the Mark TOP on Twitter is the easiest way to find me.
Well, man, that's about all I got. If you ain't got nothing else, man,
time to tap out.